Did you honestly think that you'll be playing football again?
No, I went through a lot. I mean.
Good evening. Denmark's opening match of the Euro 2020 tournament has been suspended after the team's midfielder Christian Eriksen collapsed on the pitch.
Saying to the nurses or whatever, keep my boots. I won't need them anymore.
Euro 2020, a monumental sporting event which accumulated more than 5 billion viewers across the month-long competition. The date was 12th of June 2021. This was only the second day of the tournament. Italy, the eventual champions, had just cruised to an impressive 3-0 victory over the supposed Dark Horses, Turkey. Football fans across the globe were eager to see how the second day would play out. Kicking off the day was Group B's opening game, Denmark versus Finland. The match was held in Copenhagen, meaning that for the Danish players, they would be playing in a major tournament on home soil. The match was also being played in Parken, the Danish national team's home stadium. Just under 14,000 fans filled the stadium to watch a somewhat boring first opening 40 minutes. The score was 0-0. Suddenly that, however, didn't matter.
Goodness, he's gone down there, Eriksen. That's worrying. Well, this is really disturbing. Oh my dear. This is really worrying. Anthony Taylor's reaction was immediate.
Denmark have a throw-in on the far side to the cameras. Eriksen goes to control the ball, but it instead bounces off his knee and he collapses forward, appearing to be motionless on the ground. One of the first players to react was Simon Kjær, having sprinted across the field to aid his fellow teammate. He has said to have played a crucial role in saving Eriksen's life. As he arrived onto the scene, he immediately took Eriksen's pulse and potentially stopped him from swallowing his own tongue by clearing it from his airways. He then began to give Christian CPR, whilst the medical staff were sprinting over with a defibrillator. The two doctors that were on hand to save Christian were both brothers, Morten Boesen, the team doctor, and Anders Boesen, the stadium's doctor. They then proceeded to take over from Simon Kjær and gave emergency treatment to Christian on the pitch for around 15 minutes. Whilst this was ongoing, Kjær's heroics didn't stop there. He and Delaney gathered the Danish players to create a protective circle around Christian. This allowed the doctors to work in private and stop pictures being taken of this horrible moment. As the players were surrounding Eriksen, you could see it was proving to be impossible to keep their emotions in. Some players were seen crying and praying as they waited for good news. The stadium had fallen completely silent. Television broadcasts had switched to an overview of the stadium or cut to the pundits in the studio. Kjær was also seen comforting Eriksen's wife, Sabrina, alongside Kasper Schmeichel. After 15 minutes, he is then stretchered out of the stadium, once again being covered up to protect his privacy. It felt like the whole world froze and time stood still, everyone desperately waiting for an update. In the midst of all the panic and fear, Finland and Denmark's fans inside the stadium start something beautiful. The whole stadium begins chanting his name, like a tennis match, chanting his name back and forth to each other in an attempt to keep spirits high. After nearly an hour since the incident happened, good news.
Christian Eriksen, that he is awake and that he's stable. He's in hospital after collapsing on the pitch.
This great news is followed up by a selfie from Eriksen on his Instagram, thanking everyone from the support and confirming he will be watching the rest of the tournament from the sidelines. Controversially, the game restarted the very same day. Finland would go on to win the match 1-0. Key players such as Kjær were subbed off due to the circumstances, as some things are bigger than football. Despite losing their opening 2 matches and dealing with the trauma of the Eriksen incident, Denmark went on a very impressive run and managed to reach the semi-finals, where they were narrowly beaten by England. All things considered, that was a massive overachievement, and the Danish players did Eriksen proud. Following on from the tournament, Inter Milan were forced to terminate his contract due to the presence of his cardioverter defibrillator he had implanted following on from the cardiac arrest. Miraculously, this didn't stop Eriksson from retiring. Just 6 months on from the incident, he began individual training in an attempt to get his fitness levels back up. By the end of January 2022, he had signed a 6-month contract with Brentford. His first game back was an emotional one. In a 2-0 defeat to Newcastle on the 26th of February 2022, he was brought off the bench to replace Matthias Jensen. Interestingly, Jensen was the man who replaced Eriksson in the game against Finland, in which he suffered his cardiac arrest. Despite being out of action for over half the year, Eriksson proved he still had his quality, with only Kevin De Bruyne and Martin Odegaard creating more chances than him since his debut. This kind of form and performance is why, in the summer of 2022, Manchester United signed him to a 3-year deal. He is still currently playing for United and has picked up his first piece of silverware since the incident. He won the EFL Cup last season, a competition which saw him score his first goal at Old Trafford in a 2-0 win over Burnley. What started out to be a horror story has since grown into becoming an inspiring lesson for everyone. Eriksson's story is truly a positive one, and thanks to those heroes who acted quickly, football still has one of its most creative players playing at the top level.